My phone buzzed with the agape notification, and the Valentine note inside had another woman's nickname in the first line, so I just stared at the screen and stayed quiet. I could hear my own breathing get shallow, but my hands didn't move, like my body was trying to pretend it wasn't real. My name is Serafina, I'm 23, and I work nights as a nurse in a busy emergency department in Oregon, and the man I was supposed to marry was in Japan, living a day ahead of me, smiling through a screen like we weren't slowly bleeding out in different time zones. We were long distance for 2 years, the kind of long distance where you learn the exact shade of tired in someone's voice, and you can tell when they're forcing a laugh because the silence would be worse. We were saving to close the gap obsessively. We had spreadsheets, transfer limits, little rules we promised to follow like vows before vows. No gifts for Valentine's Day. That was his idea, and I agreed. He said closing the distance mattered more than flowers that died in a week. He said please don't send anything. I promised I wouldn't, but I still wanted to make him feel chosen. We had this app, Agape. It sends prompts and lets you write a note for days like birthdays, anniversaries, and Valentine's Day. It was our tradition. Even when we couldn't touch, we could still land a message right in the other person's palm, like a secret. Japan hit Valentine's Day first. He was already in it while I was still on the day before, finishing a shift that felt like it would never end. Around my lunch break, his agape note arrived. I opened it in the supply closet, my back pressed against the cold metal shelves, because the emergency room is never quiet, and I didn't want my coworkers to see my face change. It was sweet. Too sweet. The kind of message that makes you remember why you're doing all this. He wrote about the first time we cooked together on video call and burned the rice, because he kept flirting instead of watching the stove. He wrote about how he pictured our apartment, our first couch, our first grocery run where we argue about cereal like a real couple. I replied right away. I told him thank you. I told him I loved him. I told him it made me feel like I could breathe again. Then I broke our rule just a little in a way I could justify. I sent him money, not a gift, not flowers from a website, just a transfer with a note that said, if you want cake or a coffee or anything small today, I want you to have it. I told myself it was practical. I told myself it was still part of closing the gap because happiness mattered too. He didn't refuse it. He just reacted with a heart and said I didn't have to. That night, after 12 hours of alarms and blood pressure cuffs and people begging me to fix things I couldn't fix, I got home and collapsed on my bed with my shoes still on. He texted, did you write yours yet? I said I would. I said I wanted it to be long, thoughtful, different from last year, different from the year before. I didn't want to recycle love like a script. I started typing anyway, thumbs heavy, eyes burning, but I could feel the words coming out flat, like I was writing a report, not a confession. So I stopped and told him I'd send it tomorrow, because tomorrow was my Valentine's Day. He didn't argue. He just said, okay. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and opened the app. I stared at the blank space where I was supposed to pour my heart. I wrote a few lines, deleted them, wrote again, deleted again. I wanted it to be right, because when you're long distance, the smallest things become evidence. Evidence you're still important. Evidence you're still seen. I had errands, and my mother called, and my brain was already splitting itself into 10 directions. I kept thinking, I'll finish it when I get home. I'll finish it when it's quiet. He woke up on his side of the world while I was still out. It was early morning for him, early afternoon for me. We did our usual greeting on WhatsApp. He sent a selfie with messy hair and that sleepy smile that used to calm me down. Happy Valentine's Day, he wrote. I smiled back at my phone and typed something sweet. I meant it. Then he asked about the note. I told him I was still working on it. His reply came fast. Oh, okay. A little later, he asked again. I told him, hold on, I'm almost done, which was true. I was shaping it. I was building it. I wanted it to land like a hand on his cheek. He asked a third time, and I felt irritation spark under my ribs. Not at him, but at the pressure, the clock, the way love becomes a deadline. So I sent it before I was finished. I hit send, and the second it went through, my stomach dropped. I could already see the last paragraph in my mind, the one I hadn't written yet, the one that would have made it complete. He read it. His response was 2 words and a period that felt like a door closing. I got it, thanks. That was it. I stared at the screen. My chest went tight. My face got hot like I'd been embarrassed in public. The note I'd agonized over suddenly felt pathetic, like I'd walked into a room holding a bouquet and found out nobody invited me. I asked what was wrong. He said he was sad. He said he wanted it on his Valentine's Day. He said he thought he would wake up to it. Finished waiting for him like his was waiting for me. He said I knew his time zone. He said it hurt that I said, it's still Valentine's Day for me, like that made it okay. I tried to explain. I told him I wanted it to be special. I told him I was working. I told him I spent my whole day making it something I could be proud of. He said he spent days on his... That sentence hit me harder than I expected, because it wasn't just a complaint. It was a scoreboard. It was a way of measuring love in hours and effort and making me feel like I was losing. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just went quiet and let him talk. And that's when something small, almost stupid, started nagging at me. The first line of his agape note, the one from his Valentine's Day. I remembered the phrasing because it had a strange pet name in it. A nickname I didn't recognize as mine. At the time, I had assumed it was a joke, or maybe a translation thing, or maybe I was just tired. I had been so grateful for sweetness that I swallowed the confusion. Now with his cold thanks sitting in the chat like a stone, I reopened the app and pulled up his note again. My eyes moved to the first line, and there it was, a name that was not mine. Not even close. At first I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a typo. Maybe he had a nickname for me I didn't know, even though that made no sense. Maybe the app saved an old draft from someone else and glitched. I know how ridiculous that sounds, but your brain will do anything to protect what you've invested in. I didn't say anything to him yet. Silent. Careful. I took a screenshot. Then I checked last year's message. I checked the year before. I compared the opening lines like a detective comparing handwriting. My heart started beating in my throat as I noticed something else. The middle paragraph looked familiar. Too familiar. Same rhythm. Same sentence length. Same little joke about the burned rice. It wasn't just similar. It was almost identical. I felt my mouth go dry. I still didn't accuse him. I didn't call him a liar. I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me unravel. Instead, I opened our chat history and searched for the nickname. Nothing. So I did the next quiet thing, the smart thing. I went to his social media, the one he swore he barely used. I wasn't proud of it, but pride doesn't pay rent in a relationship. Proof does. His profile was clean. No obvious flirting. No photos with another woman. But when I clicked into his followers, a certain account kept popping up in the list like it wanted to be seen. A girl with a private profile and a bio that said she lived in the same city he was stationed in. Her username included the nickname from his Valentine note. My hands went cold. I clicked the message icon, not to send her anything, but because sometimes apps show you mutual connections or suggested contacts. And there, right under her name, was a preview line from an old message thread. It was from him, and it said, "I can't wait to close the distance." My stomach flipped, and I felt this weird calm settle over me, the kind that shows up right before you do something irreversible. Quick real-life pause. When I'm editing these late at night, I get tired, and your comments are what keep me going. Like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. All right, now let me take you back. I didn't confront him right away. I didn't even cry yet. I just sat on the edge of my bed, opened my notes app, and started writing down dates, timestamps, and every tiny detail he thought I was too soft to notice. I stared at that preview line until the words stopped looking like language and started looking like a threat. I could have called him. I could have screamed. I could have thrown my phone so hard it shattered and felt satisfied for 5 seconds. But I didn't, because I knew him. He would turn it into a misunderstanding. He would say I was tired. He would say the app was glitchy. He would say I was spiraling. He would say, "Why are you trying to ruin Valentine's Day?" And the worst part is, a year ago I would have believed him, so I went quiet in the most dangerous way. I decided I was going to let the truth talk, not my emotions. First, I took another screenshot, then another. I saved the agape note with the wrong nickname, the identical paragraphs, the follower list, the message preview. I even screen recorded my finger scrolling, because I'd learned something working in the emergency department. People will deny what's on paper. They will deny what's in your hands, but they panic when the proof has movement, time, and context. I opened my calendar next. Not the cute couple calendar we used for date nights, but my personal one, the one that tracked my shifts. 12-hour shifts, night after night. The kind of schedule that makes you forget what day it is, which is exactly why he could count on me missing patterns. I searched for the dates he had been distant, the nights he went quiet, the weeks he suddenly became too busy to video call. It was all there, like bruises you only notice in bright light. Yet even then, my brain tried to protect him. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's someone he comforted and it got misread. Maybe that nickname is some weird inside joke. My chest tightened, and for a second, I almost messaged the girl. Almost. But I didn't want drama. I didn't want her version. I wanted his. I wanted him to hang himself with his own words, so I did something small. I asked him a simple question that sounded harmless. "Hey," I wrote, "do you remember the first line of your agape note?" The nickname part. It caught me off guard. "Is that new?" He replied fast, like he'd been holding his phone the whole time. "What? No, that's just you." I was being cute. My skin prickled, because that was the first lie. I could have corrected him right there. I could have sent the screenshot and watched him scramble. But silent revenge is a slow blade. You don't swing it. You place it. So I answered like I believed him. "Oh," I said, "okay." I just didn't recognize it. Maybe I'm overthinking. He sent a laughing emoji, then remembered I hated when he used them during serious moments, and quickly followed with, "You know I love you. Don't start a fight today." A fight. That word slid under my ribs like a needle. He was already framing me as the problem. I said, "I'm not. I just wanted to understand." He went quiet for a while. Then he sent another message, softer. "I'm sorry I reacted earlier. I just wanted to wake up to your note. I missed you." I stared at the screen. It was the kind of sentence that used to melt me. The kind that used to make me apologize even when I was the one hurt. But now I could see the shape of it. Deflect, redirect, make me comfort him. I wrote back, "It's okay, I get it." And then I did the next quiet thing. I asked him to send me a screenshot of the note he wrote in the app. I said I wanted to save it in my photos because the app sometimes resets and I'd be devastated to lose it. That was true enough to sound sincere. Also, he loved the idea of being the romantic one. It fed him. He answered, "Oh yeah, good idea. Give me a second." My pulse started thudding, loud in my ears, because if he sent me the screenshot, it would show the nickname. He would see it with his own eyes. He would have to explain it, unless he had already edited it. A minute passed, then 2. Then he replied, "The app won't let me screenshot. It blocks it." My lips parted in disbelief. I had screenshotted his note 10 times already. I typed, "Really? That's weird. I can screenshot yours just fine." And then I stopped myself. Too direct. Too sharp. He'd smell blood. So I deleted that and replaced it with something lighter. "That's annoying," I wrote. "Maybe just copy and paste it into WhatsApp." "I want it saved." Another pause. He replied, "Sure, one sec." I watched the typing bubble appear, disappear, appear again, like someone rehearsing. Finally, he sent the note, and my stomach turned. It was not the same note. The burned rice joke was gone. The paragraph I recognized was rewritten. The nickname was replaced with my real name. It was like someone had taken a painting and painted over the face. He had edited it, which meant the original existed, which meant he knew it was wrong. My hands shook, but my face stayed calm. I could feel myself slipping into that work mode. I get at the hospital when a patient is crashing and everyone else is panicking. You don't scream. You breathe. You stabilize. I wrote back, "Aw, that's sweet. Thank you for sending it here." Then I waited, because I wanted him comfortable. I wanted him convinced he fixed it. Minutes later, he said, "See, it was always for you. You're just stressed." There it was. The gaslight served warm. I stared at that line until my vision blurred, not because I was confused, but because I was furious at how easy it was for him to lie so smoothly. I put my phone down and walked into my kitchen. I poured a glass of water and drank it like I was trying to drown the anger. My hands were still trembling, so I grabbed my countertop with both palms. Then I went back to my room and opened the screen recording again. I replayed the moment where the nickname sat in the first line like a stain. I whispered out loud, just to ground myself, "That is not my name." I didn't sleep much. My brain kept doing that cruel thing where it shows you memories with new subtitles. The night he told me he loved me, but kept checking his phone. The week he suddenly started caring about his appearance more. The way he got defensive when I asked small questions. In the morning, I called my best friend Waverly. She answered half asleep, and I could hear a dog barking in the background. "Sarah, what's wrong?" I said, "I think he's cheating." There was a silence on the line, heavy and immediate. Then Waverly said, "Okay, tell me what you have, not what you feel." What you have. So I told her everything. The nickname, the copied paragraphs, the edited message, the follower with the matching name. When I finished, my throat hurt like I'd swallowed glass. Waverly didn't gasp. She didn't go dramatic. She just said, "He's sloppy." "That's good for you." I let out a laugh that sounded ugly. "I don't want to blow up my whole life over a Valentine's note," I said, and my voice cracked on the word life. Waverly sighed. "Honey, it's not over a note. The note is just where the mask slipped." I rubbed my face with my hands. I felt embarrassed, which made me angrier. I hated that part the most, that the betrayal came with shame, like it was my fault for trusting. Waverly asked, "What do you want?" I thought about it. I wanted him to admit it. I wanted him to feel what I felt. I wanted him to stop thinking he could rewrite reality, and I'd nod along. But I also wanted something else, something calmer. I wanted to protect myself, because we were saving to close the gap, and that meant money. That meant shared plans. That meant he had access to parts of my future. I opened my laptop and logged into the account we used to track our savings goals. Not a joint bank account, but a shared budgeting dashboard with balances we'd update. We also had a folder with documents, receipts, the plan for the move, even a draft guest list for the wedding. His email was still linked. He wasn't just in my heart. He was in my infrastructure. My stomach tightened again. Waverly said, "Don't confront him yet. First, lock down your life, quietly." So I did. I changed my passwords. I enabled extra verification. I saved backups of every important document. I removed his access to the folder, but I did it in a way that wouldn't send an alert. I renamed files. I reorganized folders. I made it look like a normal update. Then I did one more thing, the thing that made my heart race. I opened the wedding vendor emails. There was a contract clause in one of them. It had been sitting there for months, unread, because I assumed I was safe. It said deposits were refundable under certain conditions, but only if the cancellation came from the account holder who signed the agreement, and only if it was submitted before a specific window. I hadn't signed. He had. My fingers went cold. He controlled the lever that could either return my money or burn it. In that moment, the cheating stopped being just emotional. It became financial, practical, dangerous. I swallowed hard and typed a new message to him. "Hey," I wrote, "I was thinking about our call tomorrow. I want it to be special. Can you send me the vendor login stuff again? I want to double check the details so everything is perfect when we close the gap." He replied almost instantly, "Sure, babe. I'll send it." Babe. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. And while he was being helpful, while he was feeling confident, I watched the clock and realized something that made my skin crawl. He was in Japan. He lived a day ahead, which meant he had one full extra day to lie, to edit, to cover tracks. Unless I moved first. I stared at his message and felt a calm settle over me again, colder than before. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to let him believe he fixed Valentine's Day. And then I was going to quietly take back my future. He sent the logins while I was sitting at my kitchen table, still in scrubs, coffee gone cold, my hands steadier than my heart deserved. Email, password, a little note under it that said, "Do not stress, I have everything handled." I read that line twice, and instead of feeling comforted, I felt insulted. Everything handled, like I was a passenger in my own life. I opened the vendor portal first, then the venue, then the photographer. Each site had the same pattern, his name on the contract, his email on the confirmation, my card on the deposits. I could feel heat rising behind my eyes, but I kept blinking it down. In the emergency department, you learn a simple rule. Panic is contagious, so is control. I downloaded every contract. I saved every receipt. I took screenshots of the cancellation windows and the refund terms. I made a folder on my desktop called Work, because if anyone ever saw it, it would look boring. Then I drafted an email to each vendor asking one question, sweet and casual, like a bride who just wanted to double check. "Hi," I wrote. "I am confirming the procedure for cancellation and refunds. Can you confirm who is authorized to submit the request and what information is required?" I didn't accuse. I didn't explain. I just asked like someone who followed rules. Within an hour, replies started coming in. One vendor said only the signer could cancel, but the signer could add an authorized contact by filling out a short form. My heart jumped. Another vendor said cancellations could be processed by either party. If both were listed as contacts, and right now only one person was listed, him. I stared at the screen until my jaw ached. Then I did the quietest thing that would change everything. I updated the contact list. There was a field that let the signer add an additional contact email, and he had left it blank, which meant he wasn't thinking about security. He wasn't thinking about me waking up and becoming dangerous. So I added my email. The system sent a notification to the primary account holder that a contact had been added. That part made my stomach twist. I knew it would poke him. I knew it would make him ask why, but I also knew something else. He couldn't admit he noticed without admitting he was watching that account closely. He was the one who told me not to stress. He was the one who said everything was handled, so I let the notification go. I set my phone face down and waited. He messaged me a few minutes later. "Why did you add yourself to the vendor list?" His tone looked neutral, but I knew him. Neutral was the mask he wore right before he tried to make you feel silly. I typed slowly. "Because I'm excited. I want to help. I want us us to be a team. I could almost hear his relief through the screen. Okay, he replied. Just don't overwhelm yourself. There it was again. The soft patronizing, the gentle leash. I smiled once, a tight little smile that didn't reach my eyes, and I went back to the portals. Now that my email was listed, I could request authorization. I could ask vendors to send forms directly to me. I could protect my money without asking his permission. It felt like putting on gloves before surgery. Then, because I needed to know how deep this went, I did something I never thought I would do. I opened the agape note again, the one with the wrong nickname, and I compared it to last year. The resemblance wasn't just in a paragraph. It was in the structure, the rhythm, the little compliments. That sounded personal, but weren't. It was like a template with a few words swapped out, a script. My chest tightened, and suddenly I was sure. He wasn't just cheating. He was lazy about it. He had been copy-pasting love. My phone buzzed again. A new message request on social media. The girl with the private profile. My fingers hovered, then I clicked. Her message was short, polite, almost professional. Hi, I think we need to talk. He proposed to me too. For a second, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't jealousy that hit first. It was humiliation. Pure and sharp, like being shoved under bright lights. Proposed. To her, too. My hands started shaking again, but my mind stayed weirdly clear. Like my body was reacting and my brain had already moved on to strategy. I wrote back, "What is your name?" She gave it. Rue. Of course it was the nickname. I swallowed and typed, "How long have you been with him?" She said a year. She said he told her he was single, that he was building a future, that he was saving, that he was waiting on paperwork. The same story, just with different details. She sent screenshots without me asking. Voice notes. Messages where he called her his forever. Messages where he complained about a controlling ex back home. A controlling ex. Me. I stared at that sentence until I felt my stomach flip. He had been rehearsing my villain role while I was still playing fiancé. Rue added one more line. "He got angry today. He said you were snooping and ruining things. He said I should block you, but I wanted to see if you were real." I read that twice and the last piece clicked into place. The Valentine note. The editing. The pressure. The cold thanks. It wasn't about the timing. It was about control. He was punishing me for not performing on schedule because the moment I slowed down, I had time to notice things. Time to see the nickname. Time to look at his followers. Time to become a problem. I put the phone down and pressed my knuckles to my mouth so I wouldn't make a sound. Then I stood up and walked to my mirror. My face looked normal. A little tired. A little pale. But my eyes looked different. Like someone had turned off the part of me that begged to be chosen. I went back to my phone and typed to Rue. "Thank you for telling me I am real. And I am done being quiet in the wrong way." She replied, "What are you going to do?" I thought about it. About how easy it would be to explode, to post everything, to tag his family, to burn him online. But revenge that screams gives them a stage. I wanted a closed ending, not a mess. So I did the most devastating thing I could do to a man like him. I took away his audience. I scheduled our Valentine call anyway. I acted normal. I told him I missed him. I told him I couldn't wait to see his face. He softened immediately, like he was stepping back into a role he thought he owned. When the call connected, he smiled wide. "There you are," he said. I hated how yesterday went. I kept my voice gentle. I kept my face calm. "Me too," I said. "I've been thinking about what you said. About effort. About timing." His eyes lit up, hungry for an apology. I took a slow breath. "I added my email to the vendor accounts," I said, "so I can help. Because we're a team, right?" His smile twitched. "Why would you do that?" I tilted my head like I was confused. "Because I'm closing the gap," I said. "I'm just making sure everything is secure." His eyes narrowed and I watched him calculate. He couldn't yell. Not yet. Not if he still wanted me to feel guilty. He forced a laugh. "You're overthinking." I nodded. "Maybe," I said. "That's why I asked the vendors about the refund clause." His face went still. Then he said, "Why are you talking about refunds?" I leaned closer to the camera. My voice stayed soft, almost affectionate. "Because I don't like wasting effort," I said. "And you taught me that." He blinked fast. "What are you implying?" I didn't accuse him. I didn't call him a cheater. I didn't say Rue's name. I simply shared my screen. I showed him the agape note with the wrong nickname. I showed him the edited version he pasted into WhatsApp. I showed him the message preview with the line about closing the distance. I showed him the screenshots Rue sent, with his voice, his words, his promises. He stared like someone watching a car crash in slow motion. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then he tried, exactly the way I knew he would. "You're taking things out of context." I nodded again, calm as a monitor beep. "I already sent the context to the people who need it," I said. His eyebrows pulled together. "Who?" I smiled, small and controlled. "The vendors," I said. "My bank." "And Rue." The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He was scrambling for the right angle, the right lie, the right pressure point. I didn't give him time. I continued, still gentle. "I'm canceling the wedding today. I'm submitting the authorization form. I'm requesting the refunds. And I'm removing your access to everything you didn't earn." He leaned forward, his voice rising. "You can't do that. I signed those contracts." I kept my tone even. "That's why I didn't argue," I said. "I followed the process. You added me because you thought I was excited. The vendors confirmed in writing that I can submit the requests now that I'm listed as an authorized contact." He stared at me, stunned by the fact that I had moved without his permission. Then he tried one last pivot, voice suddenly sweet. "Sarah, come on. We can talk. We can fix this. Don't throw it away. Throw it away." Like I was a toddler with a toy, not a woman with a life. I looked at him and felt nothing but relief, clean and final. "I already fixed it," I said. "I fixed me." I ended the call before he could say another word. My hands were shaking again, but it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline leaving my body, like a storm finally passing. Rue messaged me right away. Did he admit it? I stared at her text and realized something that made me laugh. A real laugh sharp and bright. He didn't need to admit it. The truth had already done its job. I spent the rest of the day making calls, sending emails, signing forms. I watched confirmation numbers appear in my inbox. Refund request processing, accounts updating. With every click, I felt lighter, like I was walking out of a locked room. That night, when I finally crawled into bed, my phone buzzed one last time. A notification from Agape. A new Valentine note had been scheduled for the next year. Automatically, draft saved. And the preview line, the first line, popped up on my lock screen. It was addressed to Rue. I stared at it for a long second, then I deleted the app without even opening it, because the final twist wasn't that he cheated. The final twist was that he never even loved uniquely. He loved in bulk. And I was done being one of his copies.